Hello, is everyone here? Let's see. Okay. Waiting for everyone to come through. Hope everyone comes through. Uh, Shoot, what's going on? Is everyone gonna be here? Come on. All right. Ray, hello. Let me see. Uh, yes. Hey Ray, I'm adding you. I just sent you an invite. Hope.
Am I sideways?
How's it going?
Good. Gotta turn the camera.
Yay! Man, I was wondering maybe I should do the same thing. I don't know. Um, let's see how this goes. Let's see if this is so weird. Oh,
I
ah,
know. I tried to
nice.
turn it. Which way's better?
Man, you're kind of sideways right now.
Button.
Probably the other way is cooler. Um, Shoot.
Should be back in a second, I hope.
All right. What's up, Jawanza? I see you. Jawanza's the first person here. Oh man. Yes. So we got two people so far. We're gonna do this view.
I'm still not turning
I told everybody, and you know, we're gonna rock either way. We could wait for a few more people to come in, but definitely like, whoops.
Well, please do, because I'm still trying to turn up the right way.
Yeah, most definitely. You're
That's
upside down.
even worse. I know. Maybe I need to. Well, I don't want to.
It's so funny. Yeah, this technology is something else, man. Like it's a trip.
Is that because I had it sideways to begin with?
I don't did you have it sideways? When you came
I
on,
did, yeah.
you actually had it like right side up, like the way that you were.
Okay, well, invite me back. I'm going to leave and hopefully it'll correct itself.
Oh, sure, sure.
Okay.
Go nowhere. We gonna invite Ray again. Let's see. Go.
There we are. How's that?
That's totally cool, man.
Much
Totally
better.
cool.
Much better. Yep, yep. I feel good now.
Awesome, man. So, funny thing. Do you want to start right now, or you just want to like wait
No,
till
we
more
can
people
wait till
come
you
in?
have some more people. I don't mind.
Yeah. Cats
That's
better
probably
not be
better.
playing hooky. Yeah, cats better not be playing hooky because I told him, I'm like, look, I'm gonna make it exclusive to this group if you guys are down to come out. And I've been advertising this. And
I've
and
seen some. I've seen
you
some. It's
know,
good.
I'm sure those old pictures gave you some interesting memories, right? I kind of
Yeah,
dolled the one up.
definitely, definitely. I'm sure I look different.
Wow,
You know,
man,
it's
you're
been a
killing it though,
while.
man. Totally killing
Definitely
it.
been. Oh yes, oh yes. So who do we have with us?
We have Jawanza Hobson. He's amazing. He's from a group. Well, he's done a bunch of different things. Um, one of
Good
his groups
evening.
was Crisis, and I think Ace of Sabers. Jawanza, let me know let me know what that was, man. Um, if you're still watching, he's in Vietnam right now. Like
Oh,
he's from New York, but he lived in LA, and we're both a part of the same like Afro punk collective and stuff too. Um,
excellent.
yeah, that
Vietnam.
movie, like, you know,
Interesting.
started a whole like website, and we were all used to chat online. That's how I met him,
Yeah,
and got to
yeah.
see his band.
Good luck to you,
Had my,
man.
oh
Keep it
man,
going. Keep the
yeah,
struggle going.
man, what a trip, man. So like, man, I so it's this weather's been crazy, man. Like I'm glad I'm not in the South, and I'm glad I'm not in the freaking like Midwest, man. This is I like LA, like
But it's bright orange. It was bright orange outside today because of the smoke from the fires.
yeah,
You
that's
can
not
just
good.
about smell it. I couldn't smell it very well. I could smell it a little bit. So,
Yeah,
and they say half of California is like that right now.
yeah, it's funny. I have friends up in the Bay Area, and and they send pictures, and I'm like, man, that looks like an alien like sunrise or something like that, like I'm
Yes,
like, you gotta be kidding, dude.
not
Like,
good.
really?
Not good
You
at
know,
all.
no, not good at all, man. Like, shoot. Like, I mean, it's so weird. Like, I feel like back in the day, it wasn't as hot as it is now. And then we have all this other stuff going on to where it's just like the pandemic and all the social unrest and stuff that's been going on. People are obviously tired of social, stuff
Yeah,
that's not right. And they
yeah,
have every right to protest, you know.
absolutely,
Nothing's wrong with
absolutely.
that. And it's funny how they try to demonize the protesters too, like because of what they're protesting. I'm like, are you serious? Really? Like, what else could we do? Like, you know,
Shouldn't I?
heck,
I'm so not
man,
good at doing this. I forgot to do that.
man.
Crazy.
No, oh, what's that, man? No,
No, my
it's all
phone
good.
rang. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Shoot.
there's been a lot of protests. LA was crazy. Hollywood was wild for a few days. It's
Yeah.
been quite the year.
Yeah, people are not gonna take it. I mean, shoot, I'm probably gonna be asking you some questions about, especially being in the UK at the time that you were in over there, because of certain things that I've read about, things that people that
Right.
I know told me about. But like even talking about protest here and stuff, like just in regards to like how there's always it's funny how like when people are trying to stand up for something right, there's always that opposing force. It's like, what makes a person want to stand for something evil that's oppressive? I don't get it, like
Because I think it's because they think they're going to lose something. You know,
wow.
they're trying to hold on to something that they think they're going to lose. So they're willing to go to all kinds of lengths, as we see.
Yeah. It's sad, man. Not
But
cool.
it's good that it's changing, you know. They can fight it as much as they want, but they're not going to win the fight. That is progress moving on. New
Mm,
generations coming along going, what the hell? No, I don't support that.
that's
So,
right.
yeah, it's a good thing.
Too many people like I mean, even thinking of like I have family from the South that moved to LA and stuff, and just even people will talk about the South, of course, we know that, but then even when they moved here, they had to face some Jim Crow stuff. And my grandma was
Yes,
a writer. She's like, really? You don't know where I came from, and I'm not facing that. I'm not gonna have you treat me this way here. She was no
right.
joke.
because LA was
Yeah.
pretty bad until very recently.
Yeah, man. And it's
You know,
funny, all the protests though, like, and I've told people this, when it comes, especially like mentioning specifically Black Americans here or Black people in general here, it's because of like just armed violence by people that I call it cops play. I don't even call them cops because they're not doing their job. Like they're
yeah,
playing, they're
yeah,
cosplaying, but they're using a police uniform to carry out some racist aggression that they want. That's
yeah,
what every riot that we've ever had, or I'll call it an uprising that we've ever had, happen was because of that. It's
yeah,
like just
yeah.
do right and things won't happen like that. Like, you know.
Well, we've yet to get past the point where the riot has actually, fully stopped that from happening. So we're
Yeah,
still in the struggle.
yeah. And,
Yeah,
and then you have cats on the other end of that will be kind of agent provocateurs. And so it's like there's people that are trying to peacefully protest, but then you have cats and some of them have been in
Molotov
uniform.
cocktails, stuff like
Yeah.
that.
It's just
Yeah,
like, wow,
smashing
y'all think you
windows.
slick. Yeah, smashing windows. It's like and trying to pretend like they're along with you, but they're actually from the other side, just doing
Yeah,
stuff just to get people shot.
yeah,
Not
yeah.
cool.
Crazy. It's
Man,
crazy. That's where the
shoot,
world has moved to. No, it's
man.
fun. What else can we do? We have to just keep doing it. I basically
Yeah,
stayed inside with my headphones on, trying to
man.
do as
Hey,
much work as I could just to sort of keep me happy. You know,
creative, man.
yeah,
Very
I couldn't be
creative.
out in the crowds.
No, I don't blame you. I for me, like I've been to the protest and all that. My thing is like, and I don't say this to have a high and mighty attitude for anybody that is doing that and they're angry, but for me, I just feel like I'm not gonna like go and trash anything because I don't want like people, you know, I don't want the agent provocateurs basically getting me shot or people that look like me shot.
Yes,
Like that's where I'm coming from. I understand the anger. I totally get it. I'm not trying to down anyone for it. I'm not trying to make it look like I'm better than anybody, but it's just like,
yeah,
nah,
yeah. You
like
don't want to give your
they,
cause a bad reputation.
yeah, it's just like more or less people are kind of like just, there's people that take advantage of that, like we had in Long Beach where I live, we had some straight up Crips, like gangsters, that were pissed off that people were coming over there doing that. They're like, nah, you're not tearing up nothing. If you're gonna protest, you're gonna peacefully protest. You're not tearing up nothing because it's gonna make us look bad. And they point at
Yeah,
us first. They
yes,
they never point at the out of towners and it's usually racially, targeted. They
yeah,
always look at us first, and
yeah,
it's just like,
always.
no, dude. So, like I get it for anyone that's out there and they're pissed off, they just have to blow off steam and it's just like, hey, this is the only way that they'll get it. But for me personally, I'm not gonna do that because of just the ramifications of someone that looks like me getting the blame for it and
Yeah.
also getting shot. Now, people probably might get pissed at me for saying that, but that's just where I'm coming from. I don't want to seem like I'm putting anybody down, but that's just me.
No, no. I mean, you're on the righteous path. I mean, there was the element who was well organized there to just grab stuff, showing up in the cars and stuff, and you could see on
Yep.
TV driving around the block as they filled up the cars and ran in and out of the stores.
They've also caught like a few sort of white supremacist type dudes doing that, let alone some people in
Yes,
certain like I was saying, certain law enforcement agent provocateurs were doing that stuff too. And I'm glad we actually have more of a voice using the internet even now, because you have people that kind of just know things, even on our side. Hey,
yeah,
these guys, let's trace this guy's, like trace who he is. I don't know how they found out, but
yeah,
they found out
yeah.
these cats were crooked. Oh, that guy is actually law enforcement and he's out here doing that.
Definitely,
Wow.
definitely, definitely. And lots of people have it on video. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Well, you know what, Ray? Um,
Yeah.
I tried to tell everybody, but we're gonna just go ahead and soldier on with this if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Yes, let's go.
One of so now that that's what we were laughing about before. From what I understood, according to Wikipedia, it said that you, your current whereabouts are unknown. I
Yeah.
know that I read that you got deported, and then basically like no one knew where you were. And by the grace of
Which
just me,
isn't
for
really
some
true.
reason,
Right. Some people know where I am. I just didn't feel willing to change it. I thought it looked mysterious. It looks kind of fun. So yeah, I'm out
it's
there
like
somewhere. I've disappeared.
I'll be honest. The first time I read that, I was like, man, I wonder if he's over in Sierra Leone, like even just playing right now, has a band. I wonder if I could find him. And then for some reason, like I just kept researching, and that's when I found Baby Fiend that you produce. Also, you're a producer as well as a musician. That you
Yeah.
produce Baby Fiend and Sophia St. James, and I just decided to look both of them up. And Baby Fiend, they were the ones that pretty much put me like gave me like, hey, no, he's out here in California. I'm like, what?
I know, right?
Am I in
You're wondering where I
California?
am, and I'm like 25 miles away.
If you don't mind me asking, and then I'm gonna probably go even back further after I ask that. It's almost like it's so much to ask. I almost don't know if I should start with this first. You know what, I'm going to. So what exactly happened? I know you were in Sex Gang Children, and then that one live album, it was Ecstasy and Vendetta over New York.
That's right.
Was that the only thing that you guys recorded? Because I like Sex Gang Children anyway, but I heard that live album, I really dug what you guys are playing. Was that the last thing that you were on with them?
That's
Like,
the
was there
only
anything
thing that
else?
I'm on with Sex Gang Children, and that was a live recording from the American tour that we had just finished, and were on
Wow.
the way back to England from when my situation sort of happened.
Wow. What if
So
you don't mind me asking,
what
what
happened?
happened?
It's a long story. So I'd been living in England with my parents. I went to high school, and my dad worked for the Sierra Leone government, which allowed me to have like a special passport. But when my dad left, I kept the passport. And then once I was in a band and I needed to go to America, I needed a visa. So I went to the Sierra Leone embassy to help me, and they just snatched it. And they were just like, screw you, get the hell out. Obviously, I looked, kind of different. I was a black punk rocker. So the
Wow.
guys at the embassy were like, who the hell is this? So then I was there, kind of undocumented, you may kind of call it. So I had a new passport sent to me and got all that arranged in time for the tour. In fact, I missed the first gig of the
Wow.
tour, the Sex Gang Children tour, because all of this was going on and I couldn't get it together to
Oh
go.
man.
So then I did get there on the tour, and from the second show on, it was great. And on the way back, then the British were like, this document doesn't have you living here. How can you be on your way back?
Oh.
So yeah, and of course I was young. I was just like, well, and they were like, no, bye.
Wow.
So that's kind of how I suddenly stopped playing in those kind of bands.
Man. So how long were you and I mean, did you go how long were you in Sierra Leone for? Or did you
I
go
was
anywhere
there
else?
for 2 years. I was there for 2 years, and then I came to the States.
Wow. Was
Yeah.
LA your first stop?
Well, I'd been on tour, so I'd seen LA, and it was the only place that I really liked, that I really wanted to live in. And I'd seen the record plant, Melrose and stuff like that. So it was just, it's your dream place. Wherever you're from, LA is the bomb.
LA
So,
rules, man.
yeah, my mom at the time was living near Washington, D.C. in Maryland, and said, okay, you can, emigrate to the States. We'll help you, but you have to go to college. So I thought,
Wow.
okay, what can I do? And I've been a musician. I didn't really want to go to college, and I found a college in the local area offered sound engineering. So I thought,
Wow.
recording studio. And
That's
so
right.
I did that. I did 4 years of college, and then I moved to LA and got a job as an assistant engineer.
Wow. So that's
Yeah,
how you got into production then. I was gonna
yeah,
ask you that too. Wow. That's amazing. Speaking
yeah.
of production, I know that like you play drums, but also you recorded with, I would say they're more of an obscure band even now, a band called Gambit of Shame. They're kind of like,
Yeah.
I would, most people probably call them a new wave band or
They
post-punk band,
were they were
you
friends of
know.
mine.
Wow.
So the
But
singer,
how,
Gary Pinker, he lived round the corner, like round the block. He was like my neighborhood homie, and I'd go around to his house all the time, and we'd sit and basically listen to music and talk music. He was in a band, and I was in a band, and they had a cello player called Amanda. That's right. So she
wow.
would hang out with us all too, and they kind of were a drum machine band. And
Yeah.
when they wanted to record, especially with Robert Wyatt, he was like, you guys, you should get a drummer. He was a drummer. So Gary was like, could you do it? And I was like, I jumped at the chance. It was great. I was actually in Ritual at the time. So
Wow.
yeah. And,
Did,
I lived in a part of England called Watford, which is a
oh,
sort of
wow.
really north of London. People in London, the snobby ones, say that the north begins at Watford. It's kind of like
What
saying
was it
after the
like
San
working?
Fernando Valley, there's nothing kind of,
Oh,
yeah.
wow. So it was almost the equivalent to the Valley? Oh, Lord.
So, but a lot of people came from Watford. It was a cool place. Yeah. Andrew
Man.
Ridgely and George Michael came from Watford. Well, from
Oh,
Bushy Heath,
wow.
part of Watford. Yeah, yeah,
Wham.
yeah. Oh, yeah. So
Amazing.
Watford had bands, and Elton John used to own the football team. He
Whoa.
was from around there too.
That's a trip, man.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So
What was
yeah, I
it like
came to.
working with? Oh, I'm sorry about that.
No, you go ahead. You have the questions.
What was it like working with Rob Wyatt? I'm a Soft Machine and Matching Mole fan, and plus he's done stuff with other artists like Mungezi Feza and all those guys too.
Yes, yes. It was cool. I was inexperienced at the time. He was the great producer and stuff, and they had a great engineer as well. Nice fancy studio. I
Wow.
loved it. It was a great experience. I knew at the time. Every time I went to a recording studio, I was fascinated. I knew that if I wasn't playing the drums, I'd be doing that. So I really wanted to learn as much as I could. But when you're just the young drummer, you're kind of sitting in the
Dude,
corner or you're playing drums.
dude, I love what you do though because even when I'm listening to Ritual, it's a trip. The way that you play, and even on like I've seen it, I've heard it on the call, and even oh man, like the way that you play is a trip because it's very straight ahead and it's on point, but at the same time, there's changes that happen and it's like
It's
still
everywhere.
straight ahead at the same time. I'm like, how does he do that? Like
Yeah.
what were your influences as far as playing drums? Like just like
Well, drums. I mean, I kind of have lived in a lot of different countries, so basically almost whatever situation I was thrust into, I would just absorb. So when I was in high school, I kind of listened to a lot of rock. Thin Lizzy was like my favorite band. And I basically learned to play the drums in a sort of like my roommate had a drum kit and he had like a record player and headphones and he would play along to these records. So I would sneak in there as well and play along to Thin Lizzy records, and that was my
heck
first
yeah.
drum playing experience. So then once I'd left high school and I kind of was becoming a bit more gothy, kind of, and into like Bauhaus and wanting to be in a band, then I auditioned and met the Ritual guys. So,
Wow.
and of course, that was really the style at the time. It was, that kind of tribal sort of drumming was a big thing. And I just tried to bring my own, you know, salt and pepper.
Man, was
Yeah.
there even any like before, like as a child, like when you were like when did you come from the Sierra Leone to the UK? And were you into music when you were in Sierra Leone, or just like,
Yeah, well, in Africa, music's a really big part of life. There's music
mm,
going on all the time, and there's music for this and music for that. There's celebratory music and things like that, and a lot of drums, like this kind of thing.
yeah, that djembe, heck yeah. You can
So,
play all the,
yeah,
that's
I
so
played that
cool.
too. When I went to Sierra
Yeah.
Leone, I learned to play that. So I
Wow.
still do. Yeah. I used to, up till the pandemic, actually, to keep myself playing once a week, I had a gig where I did like a children's school, like a preschool, and
Oh,
I
wow.
became a music teacher. Yeah. So it was, and I haven't really played it since, because that's how I kept going. And
Man,
I,
there's a lot of great things with that. Like the djembe, like I know some guys, they work at the center that I work at, and the pandemic is the reason that we're not working right now as well. But man, and then I'm watching videos. There's so much like languages even in that, like I'm like, wow, dude,
oh
like
yeah,
these are
oh yeah.
almost like they're sending codes to each other, like
Absolutely,
that's a trip,
absolutely.
man.
Yeah. I mean, it's all over Africa, people do that. And in fact, in Nigeria, they even have what they specifically call a talking drum. It's the one with the strings, and when you
Yeah.
squeeze it, the notes go up and down, and it mimics Yoruba language.
That's so awesome, man. That's a trip, man. By the way, how many languages? I always ask all my African friends this.
Mhm.
Like, how many languages do you speak? I have to ask you that.
Well, I don't speak too many. I kind of speak Creole, which is like a pidgin English that we have in Sierra Leone. Most Anglophonic, like ex-English colony African countries have it, and so it kind of sounds the same. And English. And I spent some time in the Far East, so when I was a kid, so I used to speak Cantonese.
That's hard. You're punk
It's
rock for
different.
sure, man. Like
I know I scare people when I go to Chinese restaurants. I talk
I
to them
used to
and
do
then
that
they
because I
jump
speak
out
a
their
little bit of
skin. They're like,
Japanese.
"Whoa, did you just say something?" So it's fun.
That's so awesome. Yeah, Cantonese, man. Like one of our, I was hoping that she would be on here. My friend March Lowe, she has a show too, that she interviews bands and all that. She's Chinese and she speaks Cantonese too, and she was telling me just
Excellent.
like, yeah, man. I'm like, that's hard, man. Like,
It's a nice
what a
language.
trip.
It's a nice language.
Man, that's a
Yeah.
trip, man. So here's a question. How was it like being in the UK at that time when the whole punk thing was going on, and how did you get into that? I'm curious, especially because this is like in the 70s, I'm sure, like just it was
Yeah.
all really avant-garde.
Yeah. I was in high school, so I kind of couldn't really get out to the real, like, Sex Pistols and Susie and the Banshees early kind of scene. So once I was out, then that's kind of when I started. I mean, in high school, I did get to see some bands. You sort of go down to Hammersmith Odeon, which is like the big concert hall on a Saturday. But once I was out, and then, I discovered the whole, not so much the punk scene that didn't attract me as much, but more like the darker gothy type stuff. Once there was a
Mm.
Bauhaus and kind of a Joy Division, and I discovered all of that, and I was like, okay, now that's where I
Wow.
was going. And by
Did you
that
ever
point, I
like
actually knew how to play the drums, so I just knew, okay,
that's
get
so
in a
cool.
band.
Did you ever like the band Magazine?
Yeah, yeah, not as much as others, but magazine were good, definitely.
Yeah, man. Dude, them and like the birthday party, like there's man. Wow.
Definitely the birthday party. Went to a lot of birthday party shows.
Wow. Did you guys ever play with those guys?
I don't think so. I don't think so. But in fact, when I first met Ritual, our first sort of night out, as we were getting to know each other, was to a birthday party show.
That's a trip, man.
It was a really small show. There couldn't have been more than, I don't know, 80 people there, kind of thing. It's very good.
Wow, man. So how was that like? I mean, especially like when Bauhaus and all those guys were doing what they were doing, when especially because a lot of that stuff, they were calling it either punk or post-punk, especially,
Yeah.
but there's a difference between obviously, the positive punk or goth punk stuff. When that was coming around, like how could I say this? What was the idea that gave Ritual the sound that is now associated with that? Like just the overall, like, is it the image or just like the way that they were playing? I mean,
I think it's just the individual things that people in the band liked. The singer Errol kind of liked Birthday Party, and I would say probably Theater of Hate. Well, everybody liked Theater of Hate. So it was sort of a continuation of that sound. And of course, Bauhaus in there. And they once they realized what I could do, they were like, "No, we want big slamming drums." And I was like, "Okay." And sort of try to take it to a new level, which was then Mind Disease, which was sort of, you
I
know,
like that EP, man. That
yeah.
or that I like that single. That's amazing. I mean, and
I like
even
to
the way
think
that
that was the last song of the night because I was tired afterwards.
that's a dude. I play drums too, but man,
Yeah,
I'm like, this brother must have been like you were non-stop. And like I
yeah,
was saying, it was
the
straight
whole
ahead, but
song.
even there was changes within being straight ahead. And it was all precise. I'm like, your rhythm is on point, and
Yeah,
just like you have that tribal thing going on, but it's
definitely.
almost like it's overlapping stuff. And in the changes, I can't even describe it, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yes,
I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah,
man.
yeah,
And then you bust out with those rolls. I'm like, whoa.
yeah. Like Budgie from Susie and the Banshees on steroids.
Yep.
But he was one of
I
the
didn't think.
drummers I really looked up to. Budgie was the
Wow,
man.
man, that's a trip, man.
And Sid from
Shoot.
Rubella Ballet as well.
Oh wow, man.
Yeah.
So many of the guys that that were your pretty much contemporaries, you actually dug even more. So like, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was a very inclusive kind of a scene, and eventually, once you were in it for a while, you kind of knew all the other bands, you'd seen them at other shows or you'd done a show with them, they'd open for you or you'd open for them. So after a while, you got to know everyone, and it was sort of competitive. So, you know, if we thought, yeah, someone's pushing the envelope to a nicer spot than I am, which I always thought that was Sid. Sid and I would always, talk drums.
Dude, I love the fact that like it's funny, I don't see it as much anymore. Maybe I'm just kind of out of the loop, but the implement also of the sax in there too, like I mean,
Yeah,
shoot, of course the
yeah,
pop group and like, like Nick Cave and all those guys and James Chance and all those cats had it, but
yeah,
like
yeah.
the
It
way
was
that you
definitely
guys
a
did it,
style.
oh man, it was awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
Theater of Hate as well.
man, it's just like what was oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. There's something I was gonna ask, and it kicked me in the head right now. Um,
It'll be
so
back.
were you in General Confusion, the band before Ritual, or just
No,
like that was
no, I
after?
wasn't. Um, I don't think Jamie was in General Confusion either.
Wow,
Um, Jamie was kind of younger than all of us, and at the beginning, he was under 18 when we were doing our first shows, which means he
wow,
wasn't allowed to be in the pub, and the
man,
shows were in pubs. Um, his older brother, I think, played in the band, and the sax player was on drums, something like
jeez,
that. Yeah.
that's
And then, Jamie's brother left and Jamie joined and they got a drummer and Steve went to sax. And so he played the sax. And then that drummer quit. Can't remember the name of the band then. It wasn't General Confusion at that time. And then when I joined, we needed a new name. And I still remember the discussions and all the different weird
yeah.
suggestions.
What made
Someone,
you guys decide on Ritual? I mean, the
um,
name fits, but
it just fit, it just fit, especially with the kind of, dancing and stuff that people were doing at the time. And that whole scene kind of had like a uniform. Everybody wore black, a lot of mohawks and dyed hair and kind of thing. So that word just kind of fit the scene.
Man, it's so trippy to even think about like how that came like out of punk. And then of course you had the whole new romantic thing, but then it was almost like that whole goth or positive punk thing was like the complete opposite. Like like
Well, all the
it's
new
just
romantics went pop really quickly.
yeah,
Mostly.
Boy
It was
George.
all the
Yeah,
goth.
like
They doing what they're doing, and they're all mostly still doing it now. Killing Joke is
yeah.
still out there. Bauhaus, I think last year played in LA. So
Man, I wish I could have seen that. And I missed them a few times. I think David J lives out in LA too, right?
I think he does, and Daniel Ash as well. I
Yeah,
sometimes see things where he's DJing.
that's so cool, man. Oh my
Yeah, well, I
gosh.
mean, everybody lives in LA. That's why people think, oh, we wonder where he is. Where else is he going to be?
All the
Of
Brits
course,
move out here.
yeah, of course
With
I'm in
all
it.
the journeyiness over there, they want the sunshine, you know?
Yeah, yeah. It's the kind of
Man,
place where once you've seen it, if it appeals to you, you really have to be here.
man.
Yeah.
Shoot. What were some of the bands that really like as far as like when you toured, bands that really caught your attention, like even out here in the States or especially in LA? I know you mentioned TSOL earlier, but
Yes, yeah. That was our LA gig. TSOL and the Minutemen and Sex Gang Children.
mm,
And there might have even been another band. They were cool. Of course, Bad Brains just,
oh yeah,
blow everybody away.
man,
Just
those
fantastic.
guys.
Yeah, that was in New York. I don't really remember too many other opening bands. There was one in San Diego, but I can't remember the name. Oof. That was good.
Man,
That was sort of different.
yeah, I was telling you, I met your bandmate David
Dave
Roberts. I
Sex
always
Gang.
forget his name.
Yeah.
And at Release the Bats, and I was like, he was telling me because I have my Bad Brains T-shirt, and he was telling me, yeah, man, we played with those dudes, and they were killer. And I'm like, dang,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they've
amazing,
always been killer.
man. Well, shoot, what are you doing now musically as far as like production or just even music wise? Like just
I still produce people, like in the scene that you may know. I was doing something with a singer called Dante Hill.
that's
Um,
he's in this group. Oh my
Aha, yeah,
gosh, I wish he
okay.
was here.
Yeah, but the
I know
the
Dante.
yeah, this virus and the whole pandemic thing has ruined that. And for a while, I was going to be doing something with Shane from Release the Bats, but that didn't work out. And I don't think he liked what I was
Wow.
doing.
Oh
I'm not the
man.
guy for everyone.
I know that
And
dude.
yeah, you know him too. Okay. So those are like the only kind of, gothy type things I've been doing. I also sell beats. So I've been selling
Oh,
some
rad.
reggaeton beats to some people in Miami. And of course, I think I'm up to like 4 songs on their record, which we don't know if it's going to be a record anymore because of this whole pandemic. And so
Wow.
while the pandemic's been going on, I also made some African kind of Afrobeat type music. It's kind of Afro dance hall, is really what I should
That's
say. So
so
it's very
cool.
reggae. Yeah.
What other do you play any other instruments besides drums? I'm curious.
I definitely play a computer.
Hey, that's still an instrument.
So I program. Oh yeah, I mean, I have everything in there: drums,
That's so
bass.
cool. That's
So
awesome.
yeah, definitely. A lot of the Baby Fiend stuff was done on a computer. My friend Darren Edwards, great drummer and great guitar player, came along and put electric guitar on it. And all the
Wow.
other instruments are actually, from Logic, a digital audio
Logic,
workstation. Yeah,
you're
yeah, I use
if
Logic.
you know Logic, you are a wizard. Logic, I got fired from a job because I didn't know Logic. They wanted
Oh,
I probably shouldn't share
yeah.
this. I was brought in as basically like a music instructor, but they wanted me to do the studio stuff, and I'm like, well, if you can train me, but it took me so long. They had to hire somebody else, and
Yes,
like that guy knew everything, and basically it's like, okay, we don't need you anymore.
absolutely.
But I
Yeah.
still have a lot of friends from that, so that's cool. Logic
Logic is
kicks your
cool.
butt,
It's
but it's a,
good.
it's a
It's
good
the best.
program though.
Yes, if you're creating music, it's the best program. A lot of engineers, and I used to be an engineer, use Pro Tools, but that's not as good at controlling synthesizers, which really
Mm,
is what Logic is good at. So,
wow. Logic
yeah.
has those things where the amps, like they have every amp program in there, like orange amps and all that stuff, man.
Oh, yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know,
It's a
it comes
trip.
with that even. That's not even an extra. That's part of Logic. That's true.
I was like, what? I was like, wow, I could make it sound like I'm playing a vintage
Yeah.
1960s like
All
buzz
comes
box.
with that. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Definitely.
That's
And
that's rad.
sometimes I put those on instruments that are not guitars.
Heck yeah, dude.
Yeah, it's like, you
Like on a
know,
trumpet or something like that. That'd be ill.
on an organ, a keyboard. Definitely. Yeah.
Man. So what music kind of like moves you today? Like as far as like just excuse me, what music are you like really listening to even now? Like whether it's new or whether it's even from like back in the day or whatever.
Oh, I still listen to like all kinds of things, eclectic. And especially if I'm sort of interested in making that kind of music. Like I just recently, maybe a year ago, finished a version of 4 Hours by Clock DVA. Like
Huh.
yeah, an
Wow.
intense kind of dream song. It's kind of strange. And I haven't really know, I don't know what to do with it. So I have it sitting on the shelf. And so in that period, I was all really very, I don't know, dark, listening to dark things.
I
You
like a
know,
lot of dark stuff.
yeah. And, also it depends on what I get hired for, because sometimes I need to do research. So,
Yeah.
once the reggaeton thing came along, then I was really listening to a lot of old reggaeton and new reggaeton and stuff like that. So that worked out. And that sort of morphed into this Afro dance hall thing that, now is my project because I've been at home all the time in the lockdown. I had to do something.
I gotta
So
check
yeah,
that
and that's
out.
coming out at the end of the month, or just on every streaming service that there is. So look for it.
Freaking
Mankini
like
Beats.
you have to give like a beat to Tego Calderon, man. Like that guy. I saw. I always tripped off of him because I've never seen that dude without his glasses. I'm like, was he born with those glasses?
Well,
Tego
people do what they
Calderon.
have to look good, don't they?
Yeah, man.
We
Represent
do.
Loiza, Puerto
Yeah.
Rico.
Yeah, there's
Man,
a lot of Puerto Ricans in the reggaeton business. Maluma and J Balvin and all these guys.
man, that island beat.
Yeah.
You
Oh
know
yeah.
what? That's what I was gonna ask. Like, so what? Like, when Ritual kind of dissolved, like, did you guys like end up going to what Ian was forming with Death Cult, or did that happen before, or like, how did that go? Uh-oh. I hope I.
Well, the real story is Ian and Billy had gotten together after he had left Southern Death Cult and looked around and thought, we need, a good drummer and bass player. And my name, I guess, came up. So at the time, Ritual were doing a lot of shows, and people from Southern Death Cult kept coming to the shows. The manager and the guitar player, Buzz, and the manager's name was Cy came, and then another show, Cy came again with somebody else. So this was kind of strange. And then at another show in London, and these were sort of regional shows. And then suddenly, after we played, Ian and the roadie from Sex Gang Children came up to me, and Ian said, "I'm putting a band together and I want you to be in it." And I was sort of stunned because, he was the big star.
Wow.
So I was like, okay. And so they had ways where they said, come and visit us at this place, which was like an apartment building in Brixton that Billy lived in, and Andy Sex Gang lived in, and I can't remember who else. A lot of like goth musicians lived in this particular building. So I went down there, and that was it. Then I was going to
Wow.
be in. Yeah, I met Billy
It-
at his apartment, and that's where it started. And then, I kind of told the ritual guys, which was kind of a little difficult, but we got through it. And um, the three of us started auditioning bass players. We put out an ad and rented a little place. And of course, Ian was at the time signed to Beggars Banquet Situation 2, however you want to call
Man,
it.
Powerhouse was on there, like
Yeah, yeah, so we got through a lot of people. Some of them were just really bad. Like one guy had three strings on his bass, some of them couldn't play, you know, just all kinds of people, and nobody fit. And I thought I could see if I could persuade Jamie to come along and join in, because Jamie played the guitar. I knew he could play the bass. I'd seen him do it before. Most guitar players can, you know, pull off playing the bass. And so he came down, and then, there was like a private Jamie audition. And, they realized, yeah, no, now he can do anything we need on the bass. And
wow,
from there on, it started. So,
man.
yeah, they were definitely scouting around because, Ian was putting together a new band, and he knew Billy because Southern Death Cult used to open for Theater of Hate, and Billy played guitar in Theater of Hate.
Wow.
And they had a lot of the same fans as well because they were the opening band. Their fans kind of became the same. So when Death Cult came together, they knew they were going to have Theater of Hate fans, Southern Death Cult fans, Ritual fans. So it was a very easy match. And for Jamie and me, it was kind of a step up.
Man, I remember the first time I heard the cult was the stuff that, the stuff I didn't know. And this is like probably about 89, 90 was the stuff that I heard on the radio. But then getting
Fire.
into more goth and death rock stuff, I'm like, whoa, I recognize the Mickey Mouse with the skull. I'm like, that's pretty clever. And then I'm like, whoa, they were like a completely different band,
Yeah,
like,
it was. It was.
than what that fire song or whatever, like I'm like,
Yeah,
man, I didn't know that they were even from that whole scene until I got into all that stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I
And I
like
wasn't
the
into.
stuff
I
that you
wasn't into
played on
the.
more, to be honest.
No,
I'm
well,
sorry.
they wanted to go a different direction. They wanted to go and become AC/DC. So,
Like,
that's what electric. That's electric, though, isn't it? Yeah,
yeah.
it is. It is.
Man, he said ACDC. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I
I
was
didn't
I
know
was
who
like,
that.
man, when I first heard that stuff, I'm like, they're a completely different band than what most people know them by. Like I didn't know that they were you know, anything to do with goth or punks type stuff, like
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
that. So I mean,
Well, I guess they may have felt that, there wasn't as big a future, especially in the USA, in that as there is in, straight ahead rock, which is,
yeah.
at least in the 90s and the 80s, that's really what was selling. That was the big thing, The Cure and the Banshees were still on the sidelines, you
Yeah,
know.
they were still making rad music, of course, but yeah,
Well,
it
yeah,
seemed
I mean, Nicole could have stayed in that scene and been one of the pioneers. They still could have. What they were doing was their own thing. It was its own thing, and they would have still been successful.
like a lot of people were kind of crossing over, like maybe mid to late '80s. I mean, we always hear about like certain hardcore punk bands crossing over to thrash metal or whatever, but then you had other bands that wanted to like kind of play. Even some of those hardcore bands started playing what they would call regular rock music, and
Because
and
you
I
want the
mean,
money.
yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. When I first heard why, there's a band from Philly and another band from DC, Void, and then Why Die. I heard that those guys crossed over. I'm like, oh man, is it the same thing that happened to like some of these other bands? But actually, their albums were pretty good. I heard the later reissues of that, and I'm like, that's not bad for like what they did. But then you have like a lot of those guys that tried to be like totally hair metal almost. You know, like I probably shouldn't mention that this one band, but I was like, okay, not my
Yeah.
thing, but man, yeah, I didn't even know like they had that. And then I mean, the first time I even saw that, I mean, Death Cult, like that's a pretty cool logo. And then I found out that it was wait, that's the same band, you know, like that's
Yeah.
interesting.
It's
You
hard
know,
to
like
believe. They changed.
yeah,
They changed.
totally
But they did it
changed.
successfully, so more power to them,
Yeah.
I guess.
Oh yeah.
They're here, of course, as well. You know that too, right? They live in LA.
Oh wow. No, I didn't know that. I know wasn't Ian in the Doors for a while or something like
He
that?
did the tour. He did the big, huge tour. Yes. That
I
was
thought that was
excellent.
actually cool that they got him to sing because I mean, if
It's
anyone
his
could even try
voice.
to match
No, Ian's
Morrison, it
voice
would
was
be him.
perfect for that. It really was.
Totally.
Yeah. So I'm sure it wasn't like, a lot of work for him to just sing those songs. He was right in the range and everything. Excellent.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, that's perfect. And it's still it's like, you know, he's got the Morrison range, but it's still him too. And it's like it doesn't take away from what they were even doing. That's why I thought it was so cool, you know, that they
Yeah.
had him, you know, like
Yeah. He fit right in. It's nice when a
man.
band can find that. Find another
Yep.
guy who can step in and keep the whole thing going when you've lost a singer. I mean, tough one to replace.
Look at Alice in Chains, man. They got the dude from Neon Cross. That guy's been in a bunch of bands too. What's up, Samantha? Samantha's saying awesome.
Hi,
Hey,
Samantha.
Samantha and Leanne, I see you guys. You guys have any questions for Ray? Any of you guys have any questions? I want to make sure they rock that.
Yeah, yeah.
Here's a question. Your nicknames. how did
Yeah.
how did the I know your name is Raymond Taylor Smith, but how
Yeah.
did the name Raymondo and the Reverend? How did you get the Reverend? Like
Well, the Reverend came because of a particular bit of clothing I had. It was like it's called a cassock. It's sort of like what a priest wears. It buttons all the way down, or goes
yeah.
all the way down to the ground. And I would have a studded belt around it, and boots, and then over my jeans, of course, stuff like that. And so people called me that a little bit when I would dress that way. Yeah.
Gonna preach a
And then
sermon
later
using
on,
the
other
trumpet.
people started doing it too. I have
Wow.
a feeling that, yeah, if I can think, did the drummer in The Cure do that? And they had a black guy playing the drums, the Love Cats.
Yeah, Andy.
Yeah,
I used
yeah,
to
I
actually talk
know,
with
I
Andy.
know. I had that first.
Andy, it's rest in peace to Andy. I used to actually talk to him on Facebook, man. I was gonna interview him, but I knew he was going through some stuff. And when I found out, like, you know, I just didn't want to. I didn't want to like pressure it. So like, but he was really cool, man. But that's funny. He used to dress like that. I didn't know, man. That's a trip. I heard he was actually like in Hawkwind and Gong at one point. Um, that's a trip, man. But yeah, so the Reverend and then Raymundo.
Yeah. Well, that was just like Raymond cut short and Mondo.
Like
I needed
Raymundo.
a name really fast. I think I needed one really fast one day. Jumped on that very quickly. Mm.
John
But
had a
name,
question. Oh,
yes.
I'm sorry about that.
I was going to say
John,
name.
John, John was wondering about your influences.
Whoa, I have so many influences. As a kid, that was basically lots of African music and reggae. There's always been reggae kind of wherever I've been in my life. And um, I'll say I flit around, but it's usually just quality stuff. There's always a good singer. And also, I try to keep up with the times. I like to follow somebody somewhat that's new and out there. People never stop recycling, do they? Like I just saw a Marilyn Manson billboard on Sunset, thinking, is that guy
What?
back?
How did that?
So, you know, I don't know. And it's crazy.
Wow.
But yeah, no, my influences, I've always liked a little bit of like old-fashioned soul music, sort of Wilson Pickett types, David Bowie, I always liked. And then, once I got in the whole goth thing, then a lot of those kinds of bands influenced me. Like I feel like I'm influenced by Bauhaus in that I feel like a guitar doesn't always need to be chords and stuff, and Bauhaus, the guy just makes a noise,
Love that.
basically.
So
And it's
cool.
really cool. And Sex Gang Children too. It's sort of like, the sound isn't, A chord, G chord kind of thing. So it's a different approach. So, I like to be able to be outside the box at all times. I used to always wish that I could have a week where I produced a different kind of music every day and had 5 different sessions, but it's very difficult to do because one always runs over to the next day. So I don't know that I've actually achieved that. So yeah, I love it all.
Ooh, man. So are as far as like even when you're producing, I'm sure like you're that's the cool thing too with drummers that produce, they know exactly like because you have some producers that don't really know the sounds like a drummers, and you know what I'm talking about. Drummers are very particular about their sound.
You have to have a good image of what you want in your head, so you can then go and get it, kind of thing. I always feel. And, drummers, even though we don't know it, I think we're kind of mathematical. There's something numeric going on in there somewhere.
Yep.
So, a lot of drummers do a lot of great things. Who's the guy? L.A. Reid. That's a drummer right there.
Babyface, man. Yeah.
Yeah, if
Heck
you
yeah.
go through the business, you will find that a lot of people who are, you know, in record companies and a lot of engineers and stuff, tons of ex-drummers who were doing,
Wow.
many different jobs in the industry.
Narada Michael Walden. He came to mind right
Drummer.
when you said that.
He was
Even
a
the
drummer.
Mahavishnu. Yep.
Yeah,
And a
yeah,
bad drummer too. That dude was a killer drummer. I
yeah,
saw him on
yeah.
some Mahavishnu orchestra video. I'm like, what? I didn't know he did this.
Is he still alive?
That's a good question. I'm gonna look
Yeah.
into that. I'm a
Okay.
research.
Yeah, yeah. I think he
That's how
might
I
be. I think we
found
would
you.
have heard. Yes, yeah. He did all
Man,
kinds of people, Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, and just. So after
all the
playing
hate.
in all those bands, and then once I became a studio rat, then that opened my mind to a whole new sort of aspect of music and music making. And then I sort of kind of it's almost like you stop seeing genres. It really doesn't matter what kind of music it is or what it is you
Yeah.
have to work on. You're almost as happy to create backing music for a little girl reading a poem as it is to have I don't know, suicidal tendencies come in to record. It's
Yeah.
it's all good. It's all you want to do it.
Man, would you say music? And being a person that speaks a few different languages too. Would you say music is like a language that? How could I say this without sounding really weird? A mystery language in a sense that communicates to everyone, even when
Oh,
people don't
most
really
definitely.
speak each
Most
other's
definitely. You
language.
don't have to understand the words. Like I've been sort of checking out some South African music, and this one kind of, a guy who looked like he came from a small town produced this song, and him and this other a woman singer, and they kind of do like a sort of mellow type house, is what they do there.
Mm,
And she has a song called Jerusalema,
wow.
and I listened to it and just I got the feeling of what the song was about without
Mm,
understanding the language. And the song has like 120 million views on YouTube.
wow.
So
That's
it's
heavy,
huge.
man.
People love it all over the world, and nobody understands the language. I'm not sure if it's Swahili or but it was big in Italy and Spain and Brazil and places like
Wow.
that. So yeah, music definitely, it's the feel. And the music is nice and, it's sort of like mellow house backing, but her vocal just does it. Even though you don't know what she's saying, you can feel what she's feeling.
Wow, that's so cool. I
Yeah,
dig
but
that. I
not
dig
everybody
stuff
can
like
do
that.
that, I must say.
Man.
Some people just get out there and thrash around, and it's still music.
Like,
But some people manage to thrash around and you feel it.
Khalid, what's up, man? He was wondering. Oh, he mentioned Maurice White. Maurice White was.
Yes,
Oh yeah,
Earth,
definitely.
Wind, and Fire.
Yep. Those guys were all freaking just beasts. Like they were geniuses. Like
Yeah.
Juilliard cats, man.
And in those days, you had to be able to play on the spot all the time, anytime. Not like now where it's like, oh, I want to warm up or the auto tune isn't turned on. Do you know what I
I don't
mean? No. Then everybody
freaking
was
Akon.
talented. Yeah. And they worked at it. They worked at it. I mean, we have a lot of talented people now, but, there is a lot of sneaking by with studio tricks.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I have friends that are death metal drummers. I do stuff like that too, but I didn't know about
Oh,
triggers. I
that's
had no
hard.
idea about triggers until they were telling me about it. I'm like, so that's how you. I didn't know that you could do that. I'm over here like making sure I hit everything. We're
Absolutely.
cheating, man.
Absolutely. But though I do respect them though. I mean, I couldn't play like that. Some of the stuff that they do with those, kick drum rolls and stuff.
Oh yeah,
I was never good at double bass drum. That's
man.
my limit right there. And anything
But
that was jazz drumming to me was always hard.
oh yeah, that bop, man. My arms like, I'm like
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And I do
John.
like the jazz drummers, like Phil Collins was a jazz drummer, and
Oh yeah,
anybody he ever hired to play in his band was always just fantastic.
Chester
Bill
Thompson,
Bruford,
Chester Thompson.
Chester Thompson, you
Heck
know
yeah.
your stuff.
Yep. I'm a music
Yeah, those
nerd.
guys could play. If ever I
Yeah,
felt
Chester
big-headed,
played.
I would just listen to one of them and realize, okay, yeah, I don't do that. I can't do what
Man.
they do. They're good.
But even with what you do, it's just like that's a mastery within itself. Like you heard me trying to describe what you do, and I can't describe it. It's
Very
amazing
stylized.
the stuff that I've heard,
Very
you know.
stylized. Yes, yes, yes. So,
John
and
had
it's
another. Oh, sorry about that.
keep going.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm so
Okay.
excited. Like ah sorry about that. What were you saying?
I was gonna say my style was very well suited for sex gang children, which is why the
Man,
whole swap thing went so easy. And in fact, sex gang children, they told me that they were interested in asking me when they needed a drummer and got Nigel.
wow.
But they knew the band that I was in, Ritual, and we were all friends, and they were like, "Yeah, we're not going to do that." Then of course comes Ian,
Shoot.
and he doesn't care. Snatches me up.
Yeah, I dug what you did on that. Like that. I was like, man, I wish that there was even more stuff, even from Sex Gang Children too, with you on there. Like,
Yeah,
because I mean,
there
yeah,
would have
man.
been. There
Oh
would have
yeah.
been more.
If you
But
guys
then,
want to know what happened, you got to watch the playback. He explained the whole thing. John had another
well,
question. He was wondering if he's like recording technique wise, what do you like more, digital versus analogs, sample based, or instruments versus traditional?
uh,
He's a technology geek too.
right, right. Well, definitely digital versus analog would be digital just because it makes things so much easy. You don't have to do things all the way down the song. If it's a song that's very repetitive, you can just use it, find the best chunk. You know what I mean? Like if you're playing a loop on the drums, find the best chunk and just repeat that. I don't have to wait for you to take 47 takes to play 3.5 minutes all the way down. And that goes to most instruments. I mean, drums is harder to do that with, but for most instruments, especially vocals. When I first was an engineer, I used to do a lot of R&B in the 90s, and they would stack these harmonies, 4 parts, to each harmony, and it would be a four-part harmony. So we would have 16 tracks of vocals just for the chorus, and then the lead is going to sing over the top, right? So, and then in those, so yeah, we had to then sample that into a sampler and then re-trigger it in stereo down the song because we couldn't have these 16 channels constantly going down. And now with digital, you don't care. You just take repeat and you move it along, and a large chunk of your work is gone. So tape-wise, digital is better. As far as instruments go, nothing beats a human being playing something, basically. That's always that's what we feel better than a machine. Just now, I guess, with so much people doing so much ecstasy, that boom, boom, the machine has snuck into our psyche. So, I mean, I use machines all the time. My Afrobeat stuff is almost exclusively machines. My friend Cosmo Sinclair played guitar, lead guitar on one song, which I'm really thankful for. The only one, it's not all machines. Um, but it's easy to do, and it's easier to do when you're by yourself. You make all the decisions. You just, you go ahead, and before you know it, you have everything. You have access to any bass sound that you want, etc. So I like both ways, but the human touch, I will take that anytime I can.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think Samantha had another thing. She was, what did she say? Samantha, oh, she mentioned Buddy Miles as another master drummer and singer.
Yes. 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 See,
Yeah,
drummers
Buddy's
rule.
awesome. Khalid said Charlie Watts is a jazz drummer too. Yep,
Yes,
man.
yes, he is. He is definitely. And if you really break down what he does, he kind of has a style. And if you go back to the older stuff when he was much younger, you'll see
Yep.
that he was very cool. He definitely was. But I mean, I don't know what's happened to him now, but he was playing drums into his, I don't know how old he was, but super old.
Those guys, man, the Stone. How old are the Stones now? Those
Well,
guys are ancient.
he's older than all of them. He was old when they started.
You know what? And it's funny you say that. You notice every time that like you see a video with those dudes, like Mick Jagger's acting a fool, like freaking Keith is just kind of out of it, and Charlie's like, okay, I'm just doing this to get paid. Like he's just kind of like these guys, like so that explains everything.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
older than all of
yeah,
them.
yeah. He is. He is. And
That's
they're
so
still
funny.
going. Unbelievably, they're still doing it.
Nikki Noora is here. What's up, Nick? He says, hey, what's up, Ray? What's up, Orlando?
Hey, Nick.
Nick is awesome. She does the same thing that I'm doing now with like Nick. I forgot what you call your show, but she interviews people too, and she's just real cool about like just like trying to bring a lot of people together, like all the artists and music, really encouraging and stuff too.
Excellent. Keep
Man,
it going. Keep it going.
you know, speaking of drummers, Rob Wyatt again. That because he's in Soft Machine, and it's just funny. Like I know what happened to him because I think was he in a wheelchair when you
He
saw him?
was. He was in a wheelchair. Yes. Yes.
Wow,
Yeah.
man, that's funny that he told them to get a drummer. He's because I mean that's what he was doing. It's like, man, these guys need a drummer.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
they got one of the best, man. Like
Hey,
yeah.
well, they got one of their friends is what happened. Because I really was very good friends with the singer Gary Pinker. He passed away, but he was my good
Oh
friend. Yes. So it was
man,
it was no big deal for me to go in there and play for them. And
yeah,
the kind of friends you have where you go around their house and you smoke and you listen to an album and talk music and stuff. Like I'm sure the first time I heard a Weird Cure album with the Hanging Garden and all of those kinds of songs, that was
yeah.
round at his house.
Wow,
And he liked
man.
Joy Division, so we were just, I was a big Joy Division fan. If you like that, then we can just sit there and listen and talk for hours.
Shoot. Did you ever see Joy Division back then too? Or
No, I didn't. I
wow.
didn't. I saw New Order much later, but never Joy Division.
Man, yeah, that was yeah, man. Ian Curtis, dude. Like, did you ever see
Yeah.
the movie 24 Hour Power Party People, where they kind of
Yeah.
like
Oh yes. Oh yeah.
very interesting
Yeah.
movie.
The whole label and the hacienda. Oh dear. And the fact that they were losing money on the first print of the of what's the big hit called?
She's lost. No, not she's
How
lost
does
control.
it feel to treat me like you do?
Oh, Blue Monday.
Blue Mondays. The first print
Yeah.
of Blue Mondays, they lost like 12 pence on every sale that they made
What?
because they made it so fancy and so fantastic that they weren't making any money on it. Yeah. That's in the movie. That's where I got that fact from.
That's
And
so
not until they
crazy.
did the reissue could and they changed the cover and I think I don't know if it was blue vinyl or some, stuff like that. So those are probably worth a lot of money now.
What a
Yeah, they
trip,
lost
man.
money. And it was selling. It was a huge seller. So they kept on losing money as they sold it. And then they had to
How?
change it.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. That, to be honest, I heard New Order before I heard Joy Division. Like, I'm a little kid listening to like K Rock, and they're playing just, you know, mostly like what I guess the popular new wave stuff in the early '80s. I mean, that was the first stuff that I heard. I heard Joy Division much later, and then made the connection. And I'm like,
Yeah,
wow, totally different band. Like,
absolutely. Absolutely. It's a big deal
man,
when your singer dies. I'm sure it changes, the whole
oh
thing.
yeah,
Yeah, makes you
that's
wonder who's going to replace Chester Thompson. Chester Thompson, if anyone.
man. Man, Chester. I don't know who could replace that dude.
There
That
is
guy.
somebody out there. I guarantee you. If they want to, they'll find the guy.
Dude, that guy's I mean, shoot. Chester's played in Genesis. He's played with Frank Zappa. He's played with, I think he was even in Weather Report at one point. He was in a bunch of different bands, and he's in every single band. And even thinking about him, all I remember is just his beard, his balding hair, and his drum playing. Like, that's the image that comes, but it's like, that's like an iconic thing. And he's just like a freaking like monster though, man. Like, just
Yeah.
Chester's just like the man. Like, he's such the dude. Like, his image is in your head. Like,
Yeah. They're all getting up there now, though. I don't know what Phil
yeah.
Collins looks like.
I liked early Genesis too when Peter was in the band and Phil was just on drums.
On drums,
And
yes.
like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 That's
Those were the odd days. The Lamb lies down on Broadway. That's what
yeah.
they were talking and selling England by the pound. I was in high
Yeah.
school in those days, yeah. Before I was in high school, even, I think.
Man. Those are like that, to be honest, and I know that was like I got into that stuff like I was born in 74, so I got into that stuff
Oh, yeah. So
like
you were
after that,
around, you were around, you know. Punk was just about to happen. 74, probably 10cc and bands like that.
Yeah. Druid. Like,
Yeah, yeah. So,
man,
you were around for Boy George and all that crazy stuff.
yep. I was totally into that, Duran Duran. And then I was a
There you
break dancer
go.
and all that stuff too. So it was just
Yeah.
like,
Ah,
wow. Nicole had some comments. Oh, she was telling it's called Black Rockers United. Basically Brew Talk. That's what her cast is called. I love black rock music and history. And that's pretty much what we have in common and what we do
excellent.
here, because we
Yeah.
feel like we're telling our story that most people don't, like. So shout out to Nicole, and to also Ghetto Songbird does the same thing too. Shout out to
Wow.
her. And Khalid said, oh yeah, Khalid, were you talking about Chester Thompson? Yes, he is. He mentioned
Definitely.
Khalid mentioned Shaka Khan playing drums too. I didn't know that.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow. That would be cool.
Dude,
That
that's
would be
crazy.
cool. Isn't Bruno Mars a drummer as well?
Yeah, that dude's a beast. I saw
Yeah.
him play. Homeboy looked like Jackie Wilson when he was doing that style. I'm like, you look like Jackie, just a shade
He's
lighter.
got the hair.
Yeah, I was like, dang, but
Got
yeah,
the
he plays
hair.
drums. Brother is sick.
Yes.
Cully,
Yeah.
Nicole was like, wow, that's amazing. Yes, I love those films. Ooh, which films, Nicole? I'm sorry. The Northern England.
Ah, right. Yes, yes, yes. I had all that Northern Soul. There's a few like movies about things like that. Is that what we're talking about?
Was it that, Nicole? Which film?
Or the 24-hour party people.
Oh yeah, yeah. That
Yeah.
movie was, dude. That part where Howard Devoto from Magazine, I guess he was in like a bathroom. He's like, "Nah, I didn't do that." Like,
Or the
I
part
love
where
that.
they were saying that in Manchester, when I think it was at Joy Division that played, no, Joy Division played London, and there were like 20 people there, and almost everybody there ended up being
Wow,
in a band. You
that's
know,
crazy, man.
guys from the Smiths were all there in the audience, and of the tiny, tiny audience that there was, it was
Wow.
all people who would move on to be famous. So I'm gonna have to
The
watch that movie again.
Buzzcocks magazine. That's I like a lot of bands from there too. Like I'm a magazine fan. I like the Buzzcocks too.
Oh
Like
yeah, I remember them.
um, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
they were crazy with it. I
Man,
don't know where they were from. Buzzcocks, Irish, maybe.
yeah, they. I don't know if they were Irish or not. I know they were from Manchester though too.
Oh, they
John
were from
Lydon was.
Manchester. They're not Irish. Yeah, I do remember the "Ever fallen in love with someone, ever fallen in love."
Yeah,
That was a huge song, big hit for them in the real
yeah,
punk
those.
days, kind of before the goth thing happened.
Oh man, yeah, real angsty. Like,
Yeah,
but goth.
yeah. And
That stuff was.
punk really separated into so many things, because there were always those really grungy ones like the GBH and the Exploited, bands that I would
Yeah,
never go see, You never know who the hell's going to be there. That kind of stuff. And, then of course it was all our stuff. It was the darker, nicer goth stuff. People don't really fight at those shows and stuff. The GBH and those kind of guys could get violent.
so that's why they called you guys positive punk then, right? Because it wasn't really on
people
that stuff.
people wanted to do something and to do something good and not just be like sniffing glue and having fights. Which I don't mean to say anything bad about GBH, but
No, hey, like just the fans and all
no.
that.
Well, there, I mean, they had their own scene, which had a lot of skinheads and those kind of punk rockers. It used to be like if someone's mohawk was wide, they were probably going to be cool, but if it was really narrow, you might need to
Then they
watch
were, wow.
You know what I mean? And if they had a wide mohawk, on the back of their jacket, it would say like Bauhaus or UK Decay. You know what I mean? It'd be nice and wide and dyed colors and, stuff
Death
hanging in
Hawk
their hair. Right? And the real skinny one, he's going to have it be exploited on his back. 10,000 tons.
with a freaking chain like around his waist.
Yeah, yeah, you know. So,
That's
they kind of
crazy.
had their own scene. That wasn't the kind of thing I went to.
Man.
Although we did once play in a pub, and they had a night that they called Skunks, Skunks, which we didn't really kind of get, stood for skinheads and punk.
Oh,
And we
oh
get
shoot.
there as ritual, not knowing when the punk is coming. And they were all skinheads in there. Everybody in the place, it was somewhere in East London, all skinheads. And we
Oh
played our
wow.
set as fast as we could. And when we got there was a big skinhead outside with a pool cue going, "Are you the band?" And we wanted, I wanted to just get back in the truck and say, "No, we're
Oh
not."
wow. Yikes.
But we did the
Man.
show. Yeah, and two girls tried to attack Errol the singer while we're doing the show, and he had to fight them off as gently as he could. They wanted some trouble. And I think we didn't even wait to get paid. We just like left. Start skipping songs. If the song sounded slow, we just no, we're not doing that one. And the audience didn't say much other than "You're shit," something like that. We get that
Wow.
shouted at us a few times. And that's when I was like, okay, no more skinhead gigs. I only want to play in cool places, where we know it's our crowd.
Instead of those Oi street punk types.
Oh, hell yeah. That wasn't my thing at all. That wasn't my thing at all. Yeah.
Man. That's crazy. I'm glad you guys got out, man. Like,
Oh yeah. That was really the only hairy situation that we were in where we just thought, this is just too much. Our 45 or 50-minute set was probably like 20 minutes or 15, and we were like gone.
wow,
So, yeah.
that's a trip. Oh, some people had some other things. What were you saying, Khalid? I think you was talking about 24-hour power people. What's up, Dre Robinson, aka Mr. Data Bomb? Data Bomb does like some really cool, interesting stuff too, like music wise. He uses a lot of computers. Data, didn't you work with like Skinny Puppy or somebody like that too? He's done a
Nice,
bunch of
data
different
bomb.
things.
Nice.
And he's talking about Magazine. Yeah, Magazine is one of my faves. Um,
Mm-hmm. Skinny puppy,
John was
that's up
wondering.
there, shit.
John was wondering about soundtracks. You like soundtracks, and if so, fave flicks that related to your work. That's what he was wondering about, like your interest with that,
Soundtracks
like to films that you dig,
for
or
films. I've had a chance to do a few, not many, and they're usually just like, student films, and I've done a couple of student films and a couple of small commercials. I like it, but it's not easy work to get, you know. I would do it if I could, and usually
he
the
he
money's
was
good.
wondering if there was any I guess like stuff that you do that's related to flicks that or I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Any fave flicks related to your work? That's what he was wondering. I'm sorry.
Oh, fave flicks related to my work. Not really. I mean, I like Game of Thrones, and I think hopefully that'll make me write something a little more crazy. But no, usually I just watch a movie to get away from whatever music I'm working on.
I hear you on that one. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
let
if
me
I'm
take
in
a
front of the
breather.
computer all day, then I just veg out in front of a movie that takes me away from the track that I can't finish or the parts that I can't play or whatever I may be struggling with at the time.
It's a good breather. Nicole was like, proto goth was post punk. Oh yeah, most definitely, most definitely.
Yeah.
Um, Khalid says, I was wondering, did you play drums on Sebastian? Did I K by Sex Gang Children?
Uh-huh. Um, no, the only Sex Gang Children recording I'm on is the Ecstasy and Vendetta over New York. That's the live one. So all the studio recordings, etc., were all before me. And I wasn't really in the band that long. I basically did one big tour, and then that was it. I would have been in for longer, but it was just the one tour. It's a big year for me, 1983.
Wow. Oh, Data Bomb says he still plays with Skinny Puppy, and I guess you said that you're playing with the X. The X is awesome. You're playing with
Wow.
the X. New things coming out with or C. Oh no, CX. Was it the X or CX? And the fam soon also working on new tier. Oh shoot, tier garden ideas. Yeah, he's a busy dude, man. Like,
Nice, nice. How are those skinny puppy guys? How are they holding up, I wonder? That's cool that they're still putting out stuff.
man,
Yeah,
what a trip.
definitely, definitely.
Man, you
Yeah,
guys
I didn't.
probably know a lot of the same people too. I think Data Bomb lives near Hollywood, but plus, you know how the circles are around here. I mean, we know a few of the same people. That's
Yes,
so
we do.
crazy.
Surprisingly, surprisingly, yes. But tell Dante to get singing. I'm waiting. I want to hear what he does. He's
Oh
a
yeah.
very nice
Oh,
singer.
he says Kevin is Sev. Sev. I'm thinking. Oh, C or CEV. Oh, C
Kevin
Evan. Key
Evan.
is terrific.
Ah, excellent, excellent. Who is the C Evan?
That's a trip, man. Well, yep. I'm still trying to get to meet all the brothers in the scene. Yeah, there's very few of us.
That's true. That's true.
he
But there's
caught one of
always
my
some.
sets, man. Huh?
There's always a few wherever you go, though. There's always
That's
some.
right. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah. I went to see Rubella Ballet when they came to LA because I was always friendly with Sid. And his brother comes up to me, tall, slim guy, and knew totally who I was, all the stuff I played on, etc. And I was just totally in shock. I couldn't believe it. That doesn't really happen to me ever.
So cool.
And he gave me a link, and he's in a Susie and the Banshees tribute band as a drummer, and he was
Wow.
fantastic.
That's
Yeah,
so cool.
I know. So I should find his name. I was very impressed. And then the song I saw was Happy House, which doesn't
Wow.
have the easiest drums at all. If you listen to that, it's like kind of like, it's an odd pattern, which Budgie is
So
very
cool.
good at. So yeah, no, the
Yeah.
guy he nailed that really well. So there's
Yeah.
a lot of us out there, a lot of us.
Yep. It's to be honest, the reason I even started this group is because, you get a lot of naysayers, and I've heard it. Oh, like, why are you playing this kind of music? Or they'll say like what happened to some people. There's an interview I put up by Ricky Buzz from Sun, and basically the person he went to a radio show, and basically he was about to play live or something or have an interview, and the person, was like, "Why are you here?" And basically he's like, "Hey, I'm the guy that you've been playing for the last like year." And the guy basically ripped the album up and say we don't play the N words on the. I mean, stuff like that. People don't
Oh,
know
yeah.
our story with that. We've been doing rock and roll forever.
Well, yes, of course.
You
Go
know.
back to Little Richard. Go back to where Elvis Presley got all his songs.
Yep.
So,
Exactly.
mm, a lot of people don't remember that far back, but it's really that's where it came from.
Yep.
And all the British music, a lot of those Rolling Stones and Beatles, that's where they got all their ideas from as well. They're all
Yep.
into Howling Wolf and all the old blues guys. A lot of these people like Eric Clapton and all those guys, they're all into old Black American music, which at the time, I guess, in the 50s and the 60s, Howlin' Wolf was probably still going, but by then that was old.
Yep.
And they turned it into, rock.
Yeah. It's funny. Everybody that I've ever like heard talk about Howlin' Wolf, they say that was like some of the scariest stuff they heard back then.
Yeah, I think he
But it's
had like this voice, Yeah. And it was
I'm the
blues,
wolf.
so it was pretty dark. So yeah. And basically all of that turned into Led Zeppelin and Deep
Yep.
Purple and all of these
Black
bands.
Sabbath. Screaming Jay Hawkins had a huge part in that too, like, and I always say Screaming Jay Hawkins was kind of proto goth as well,
Yes,
like,
yes, yes.
you know,
So, this we're always in there. No matter what kind of music it is, we're always in there.
oh yeah, most definitely, and it's why, I mean, I'm like, I started doing this project because I'm like, I want to write about everybody that like, basically, kind of to tell our story,
Mhm.
like in rock and roll, everyone else is telling their story. How come we can't tell ours? And so that's why I'm honored that you even took the time to even like just talk with us and tell us more instead of what Wikipedia is telling you that.
I know. Well, I don't want anyone to change it.
Hey,
If
you
next week
guys,
it says, "Oh no, he lives in LA," I'll be all upset.
nobody knows your whereabouts. I'm like, wait
That's
a minute, I'm
right.
talking to him.
Yeah. Like I'm on the run, instead of having federal witness protection.
Raymondo, MIA.
You know, that looks better than just, and he lives in Cincinnati or something.
Hey Ray, my friend Jan Jan's also a musician too. I went to college with him. He's awesome. He had a question. He's all, Ray, do you have a song writing process? If so, how has it changed much over the years?
Ah, I do have a process, and the main change came as my piano playing or chord playing got better. In the old days, I would start every track, start with drums, find a bass line, try and figure out what chords I could do over that, and then, eventually get to a point where you could sort of try and sing over it. Nowadays, that, I've spent some time trying to figure out as much music theory as I can. Nowadays, I'll start with the chords instead. And sometimes the very last thing I get around to is the drums, um, because I know I can do it. So,
Wow.
like, forget drums. We can do those in our sleep anytime we want. Let's get the chord part. And, so then once I have the chords, then I'll try to figure out some kind of a bass line, and then I'll try to add the drums there to help push that bass line, as opposed to in the old days, it used to be, let's find a nice drum beat and layer everything over the top. Now the drums kind of come later, but they're still as important. I think that I get to make them as different, or make them do what I need for the song, as opposed to make them the song, if that makes any sense.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool, man. That's awesome.
And another
Data
weird
bumps.
thing that I like to do is, because I don't really play the guitar, if I'm going to have a guitar player come along, I won't have the guitar player play on the track until the vocals are on there, so that the guitar
Mm,
player can fill in the gaps around the vocal. So if there's no vocal, then they don't really know what's going to be happening. Like if you listen
mm.
to all the old blues guys, I mean, they'll sing something, and then when they stop singing, then they'll play a nice little lead lick, and then they'll sing something again and do a lead lick. And I'm sort of trying to recreate that, but you can't do that unless the vocal's already there. So I always try to bring in the guitar player at the end once I already have a vocal. So that's another sort of thing.
Total call and response. That's interesting.
Yeah. Oh, that works everywhere.
Yeah. That's
It's
amazing.
like the oldest thing, one of the oldest forms of music that humans have.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's
That
it's
that
in us.
person hit a rock, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, that's a response. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, and vocally
man,
too. Hmm.
that's right. I'm tripping. Like, I wonder, like, what the first song was. I mean, I've heard people say certain things, but it's like, imagine hearing the human voice and kind of just like, yo, and like, oh, like making a sound or something like that. Like,
Yeah, I mean, you wonder which one came first, really, song or language. 'Cause you're going to be,
wow,
yeah, when you're first beginning to make noises, which one is it? Is it a song? If you're oh, or is that language? So, you know, we like music. The
man,
one of the things that humans everywhere have in common, you know, kind of
we
like
are
that house
sound,
music.
man.
Yeah, that just four on the floor, everybody happy, you know.
Cats
And there's
prancing
certain beats
around,
that make you feel a certain way, You can try and make a beat more edgy and scary and stuff, which is what we know all about.
Yeah, I mean, people think I'm crazy because I like a lot of dissonance. Of course, that's why I'm into this stuff. But I mean,
Yeah.
I listen to
Oh, yeah.
everything too, but it's just like there's just certain things, man, like especially like no matter what song it is that kind of gets to you and it makes you like it kind of inspires something in you. Maybe, if you're a musician, obviously you kind of want to play a certain way. If you're not a musician, you're gonna probably want to dance or you're gonna want to draw or something like that. Like,
You get a feeling from it. Definitely. That's what it's about. Once
mm,
music can do that, then you've made some good music. That's when music's working at its best, is when, people listen. And that's why concerts are so good, because then we all go and we all get the same feeling from the song at the same time, 5,000 people all feeling it. It's like a religious experience.
yep,
Like I look at all
totally.
these preachers and I think of them as rock stars. They're just that they have this one story that they're selling. But people go and stand in front of their preacher, and they could basically be standing in front of Mick Jagger or Susie Sue or any rock star, the way they look on with with awe. So,
Well,
the
you know
music.
how like the early rock cats, like a lot of it was even inspired by like church, like a lot of Black American church stuff. Like, I mean,
Oh
look
yeah.
at Little Richard, look at Rosetta Tharpe, like it's just like, whoa, like
Hmm.
I
Well,
always
that's
tell people the first punk show that I ever went to was this gospel church in Pasadena, and I swore I heard this dude 30 years later, still like, ah! I'm like, homeboy was screaming so much, the mic was buzzing, dude, and
oh,
I swore like this old lady, like there was a few of them that had these paper fans. I swore they were having a pit, man. I was like getting shoved around as a little kid, and this dude was like, ah! And he was on the radio, dude.
he
Years
was
later,
getting
I'm
the
like,
feeling.
homie still has it.
He was getting that feeling. Yeah, yeah. Once you
Dang,
provide that
cuz.
feeling, people love it. Yeah. And of course, it
Man,
can be directed in any way. Some bands
yep.
are screaming love, 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 and others, I'm not so sure.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's, I, I, I've done stuff where it's just completely noise. I've scared the living snot out of people. Data Bomb has seen me. I mean, the band that I have is like all over the place, but um, I think I had like I've done solo stuff to where I've been kicked off the stage, but it's like when you're just feeling it, you're just going for it. I mean, it's not the only thing that I do, but it's just
Right.
fun. Like just
Going
like it's the
crazy.
euphoric thing that you even get. Like
Well, it's hard when everybody else isn't feeling it, though.
yeah, it's hilarious. Yeah. You have some cats that are just like, man, that was crazy. And they're like, dude, because I mean, at least for me, if I'm doing something like that, I want to make sure people are, it's like call and response type stuff, or just, I have composed stuff, but then I have stuff that's completely improvised. And some of the songs are under like 30 seconds.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And then I have songs that are just like, far out jams. But it's a trip though, just thinking about like, how you do things, like even on the stage, or where it's just like you're kind of feeling it. And just that could
Yeah.
go either way too. Like what the heck,
Yeah,
man?
I've never really been much of an improviser, especially on stage. I like everything like planned out. I know every stroke I'm gonna do. I mean, I might not know every single role. Some of those are kind of, they come. You have
Wow.
that certain chunk of time to fill, and you just fill it with something. But mostly, especially that the Death Cult and the Sex Gang Children stuff, yeah, I stuck to there was a thing, a pattern that you stuck to, and I,
Yeah, that those beats that you play are like, I mean, those are really precise. Like,
yeah,
and I keep saying this. The guys probably didn't hear me say this before. Your drumming's a trip because it's so precise. It's 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 precise to the point like where it's straight ahead, but even you're changing, but it's still straight ahead. It's like I've said this like a
gotta
million
stay
times,
on
and
the
I
beat.
still feel like I can't describe what you do, or
Got
what
to
you've
stay on
done.
the beat. Stay on the beat. You know,
Yeah,
that's really
that's
it.
some rhythm right there.
Yeah, and I got to say, other people were kind of doing it too, because when I jumped into Sex Gang Children, which was, a band I knew and that I liked, that stuff was all written. So I had to
Mm.
then jump in and play the patterns in their songs, like
Wow.
Sebastian has a pattern. If you play
Yeah,
something
that's
else, it's not that song. So very strict. And those songs weren't like most rock songs where, boom, boom, down, boom, boom, down, and you could just do anything you want. These ones have a total setup that's intricate.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, and so they wrote all of those without me. I just stepped in and did it.
Yeah, I like what you did, man. I mean, I like them as a group. When I heard that live album, like that was rad with the stuff that you were doing with them too. Like, man, I wish that you could have recorded with them as well, like another album with them. But
Yes,
man,
yeah. They had just done Mauritia Mayer, I think, around the time I joined, a little bit around about that might have been their last. And then they'd written a bunch of new songs that we did on that tour that I think Dead Metal and Ecstasy and Vendetta. Those were two of the newer songs. So had I stayed, I would have probably recorded those. Definitely
Wow.
those two, and then what was
I'm
coming on.
glad that they got you guys, with that live. I'm glad that they recorded that. I'm like,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah. I
Man.
don't
Oh,
even remember
there's
where it was, actually, what cities it was. It was a crazy tour, like a very cheap tour. Sometimes we were in a car, sometimes we were in a little van. It was
wow.
wild. Not
That's
sleeping, finish a show and drive through the night to the next town.
oh, man.
I
Especially around
know.
America, being a bunch of
Oh,
punk rockers too. Oh
yeah.
Lord.
It was tough. It was tough. Mhm.
Who are these alien looking people getting out of the van?
Well, yeah, one's got blue hair, one's got red hair. Everybody was all, we're on tour, so we're as dolled up as we could be, and not bothering to undoll up at any time. It's like you don't have a day job or anything, so your hair is always like,
There's a few other questions. Data bomb. Khalid was saying basically Sev Key is the keyboardist of Skinny Puppy. Dre was like saying, "Did you ever? Oh, sorry. Did you ever? Something's up with this. Did you ever meet Dean from DVA?
no, I didn't. I did like Clock DBA. Like I was saying earlier, I've done a version of 4 hours that I haven't put out and don't really know what to do with. Um, I tried to go see them once. They were opening for Bauhaus at a club called Heaven in London, but the people I went with got freaked out and left halfway through Clock DBA.
Oh
Well, they
wow.
had like a projection screen, and on the projection screen, I remember were people basically tied up in trash bags. So you could see it was a person, their neck was tied, so you could see the head and the hands behind their back, and they were on the floor, and there were all these pictures that would come up. And so some of them were really harsh. And, there was kind of an odd crowd, especially for those days. Tattoos weren't quite as popular as they are, and there were just a lot of, facial tattoos and just, it was different. And so my friends got freaked out and left, and I left with them because I didn't want to be, stuck in town all by myself in the middle of the night. But
Wow.
it was, so yeah, and I didn't see Bauhaus.
Oh man.
So yeah,
Dre
I think that
Dre
was the first time.
oh that's messed up, man. Oh, sorry about that. Dre said he pointed out we were mentioned in a book and we bonded. I'm so sorry, I didn't know. Khalid said Howling Wolf's voice was very imposing.
Yeah, yeah. So
Dre
is
said he
someone saying they met me and we bonded?
you met him, Dre? You met Ray? Or was it the guy from Clock DVA? He pointed that we were mentioned in a book, so we bonded. Let me see what he's saying. Thanks for the compliment on the pop group T-shirt, man. I got it from where you used to work, Amoeba. I was surprised they
Ah,
had it. Never
they're gonna be
saw
gone soon.
that T-shirt of them. Um, oh, Jan says thanks. He says awesome about like what you were saying to his answer earlier. Um,
Excellent.
music is older than mankind. Khalid said that. Um, oh, Khalid was asking. Ooh, let me scroll up real quick. Khalid was asking, did you play the drums on the whole Death Cult album, Ray?
No, I played on the first EP with Horse Nation, Christians, Gods, not Godsu, Horse Nation, Christians, Ghost Dance, and one
I
more.
love that song. Love Ghost Dance. I love your drumming on that, man.
So yeah, and that was totally me. That was, I just stepped in, they had no drums and just chords and stuff and said, yeah, play along with this. So then I got a chance to like, totally make up my own stuff, which was nice. And I did
Wow.
that a fair bit in Ritual too. And mostly Sex Gang Children was just like, okay, these are the songs, learn them now. I think I had 3 weeks.
Man.
Yeah.
Oh, Dre says no. Dean and I met online. Oh, far out,
Ah.
man. Yeah, that's amazing though, man. Like it's just yeah, man. I like
But I
that
think
Ghost
most of
Dance
the
song, man, a lot. Like
right. And Nigel
even the
kind of kept most of my patterns when they recorded the Dreamtime LP. That's most of the songs that I was playing from the beginning when the band started.
hmm.
Like God Do and there's a whole bunch. Flower in the Desert. So long I don't remember too many names. But yeah. And of course Nigel didn't last. That band got through a lot of drummers.
Wow. Yikes.
Yeah.
And, man, wow. Oh my gosh. Ah, I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, Dre was like, Ghost Dance was the jam. Yeah, I like that song a lot. The beginning reminded me of Dark Entries by Bauhaus, the guitar part, a little bit.
A little bit,
Um,
yes. Yeah, 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 yeah. But still, it worked. It worked. I don't know how many years they played that song for. That was one of the very first ones, in fact. I think that and Horse Nation were probably the two first songs that came together.
Horse Nation's a trip. It has that kind of cowboyish type thing, but it's just a twist with it. Like kind of that gallopy, like I can't even
Yeah.
describe. You know what I'm saying?
Well, when we talked about it, I do remember because it's about, I guess, the Sioux or the Lakota. It's about Native Americans.
Huh.
And so they're the horse nation, and they show up en masse with all these horses, all these warriors riding horses, and that's kind of what the song is. So I thought,
Wow.
oh, really, 1,000 horses? Okay, let's go crazy. Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah, I
dun.
like what you were doing on that. I'm like, it's like a battle almost. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
and
oh yeah,
it's funny when I first saw Ian, like before I even found out, like I'm like, I wonder if he's native because he had those clothes on and his hair and all that. Was
he
he
was
really
very
obsessed with all
into it.
that stuff?
No, his mom, I think, moved to Canada. So he went to high school somewhere in Canada from the north of England. So he went from like the
Huh?
complete north to Canada was cold, but there's this whole environment that he'd never seen before. And Native Americans have a great story, their whole, situation. And so he was sucked into the whole thing. And for years he's always been into, and
Yeah, I was like,
really, his whole Southern death cult was on all Native American stuff. A lot of it. If you really listen to it, there's Native American words. He toned it down a little bit in Death Cult, and then toned it down even more once they got to like ACDC.
yeah. Yeah, for the longest, I thought he wasn't. I heard his accent. I'm like, what? It
Oh
threw me
yeah,
off.
yeah, oh yeah. But
Oh
and
man,
in England, that was a super cool thing. There's this guy who dresses up like a Native American. In the days of New Romantics and the early goth thing, it was just a perfect look. And
wow,
all of Southern Death Cult kind of adopted it a little bit. And
man.
and they were from Bradford, which was in England, probably still is even now, goth city. There were so many goths in that part of the country that they easily got a foothold, and it just became like a big thing.
Man, that would have been cool to check that out back then, man. And it doesn't seem like goths were like you were talking about like a lot of punks. I was a punk rocker, but I was never like really on some like a lot of my friends were on some rah rah stuff. Like a bunch of punk
Yeah, I
rockers
know.
and skinheads like just fighting all the time. I'm like, I can't kick it with y'all, man.
No,
I'm
no, no. Yeah,
gonna go play this
that
bass
house
guitar
was just
over here.
speaking of anti. That's so much more fun.
Yeah.
No
I'm
crazy
not
people.
trying to go to jail
Yeah, yeah.
or juvie.
And British people like to fight too. I don't know what's in their blood, but they like a good fist fight.
Oh man.
So,
I was gonna
there's
I was gonna
plenty of that to go around.
I was gonna ask, it was something earlier that I was wondering about, and I mentioned it, because of all the stuff that's going on now. Did you see any like a lot of the uprising? I don't know how far Nottingham is where you grew up, but I've heard and read about things that Nottingham like uprisings and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I
Because
didn't really see any. I did know it was going on. I know that like in the late 70s, England had like what they called them sus laws, but it's a little bit like the sort of New York thing where they could just search you just because they suspected or felt like you were
Stop
doing
and frisk.
something. Stop and
Horrible.
frisk. Yeah. So for a while we had that in England, and that caused a lot of trouble um, in the 70s, and especially at the time because there was a lot of. It was about the time of bands like Steel Pulse and Aswad.
Love
British
that band.
reggae was kind of yeah coming out, and so a lot more dreadlocks on the street, and so they bore the brunt. They bore the brunt of the British police, harassment.
Wow.
Oh yeah, so that was pretty serious in those days. Um, but I was kind of young, and also in high school I didn't live in London, and then I lived in Watford, and then later on I lived in Brixton, which
Ooh.
is a very cosmopolitan area, which was a lot of fun. And I kind of miss London, but still,
Wow.
nothing beats LA.
LA rules, we rock.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Dre was saying back in the day, I had no idea brothers were in bands like this, like basically like the groups that were like groups that you've played in, and Khalif said
Well,
the same
England,
thing.
England was different. I mean, UK Decay had a black bass player. The
Yep.
Cure for a while had a black guy playing the drums. I don't remember what his name was. Simple Minds, black drummer. I mean, the list is kind of endless. There's a lot of black musicians playing
Andy
in sort of
Anderson.
what you wouldn't call black music type bands,
Yeah.
just regular British music. So that I
Yeah.
think happens a lot over there,
I
more so
dug
than.
UKDK and yeah, I dug all those bands that you're saying. And it's
Yeah,
I've actually
yeah.
if you look even through our posts, I've even written about a few of them, like it's so
Okay.
cool, like just to have like, I mean, that's one of the reasons, like, I'm glad, like, like not just my group, but there's a lot of us that are just kind of like, we want to make sure that, you know, our presence is known, like people like you, people like, Data Bomb and like a lot of different people that have been either, you know, they've been doing this, like, and they're kind of at times behind the scene, or people just don't even think about it, like when they think of rock and roll musicians. And a
Yeah.
lot like your bands were pretty much some of the first of the goth bands or positive punk bands. That's a very innovative thing, man. That's, to me, that's a big deal. I mean, like, I was in high school listening to this stuff. I wore all
Something to be
black, I
proud
wore
of.
the makeup and everything, like, so, like, I
Those were
mean,
the
it's really
days.
cool.
Yeah, yeah. Those were the days. But it was all
Yep,
fun
yep.
as well. We can't overlook the fact that, we were actually having fun while we were doing all of that, which made,
Yeah.
all of it seem worthwhile. And also in those days, young people would follow bands, and England is small enough, like, if you live in London, you could hitchhike or find a way to, get to Manchester to see the band that you like play if they're on tour, and then they go somewhere else, and find another way and find a friend at the show who will let you sleep at their house. You know what I
That's
mean?
so
And
cool.
like when I was touring and stuff, people would follow us everywhere.
Was Here's a question. What did your parents think, like, when they saw you, how you were dressed,
Oh,
especially being
they
traditionally
hated
African?
it. They hated it. I have African parents. They're like, you're supposed to be a doctor or a lawyer, none of this musician. What is a musician? Playing the drums?
It's
Hell
like, why
no.
are you dressing like that?
Oh
I go to an
yeah. My
African
father used to
church,
ask me if I was
man.
gay. I had a picture where I was wearing a black and white stripy shirt. I'm sure you must be a homosexual. Nobody with any sense dresses like that. Like, okay, here we go. Yeah,
That's
no.
so funny.
My parents were not having it at all.
It's like, hey, your son's actually like making history. He's a legend trumper.
No, they couldn't
Man,
see that. They couldn't see that. Maybe had I sort of really taken it the whole way and could say, okay, I'm playing at Wembley Arena, I think you should come down, then they would have been like, oh. But I think anything less than that, and they think, yeah, he's bashing around being a child. instead of growing up or something.
Man, Dre was saying he was goth before he turned to the machines, and Khalid was basically like giving mad props too. He was saying the same thing I thought about Ian. We thought he was Native American.
But he was into it, and in the nicest possible way. He
That's
kind of
awesome.
wanted to expose the bad treatment that they'd had and, all this kind of stuff. But I think
Mm.
once he came here, he realized that wasn't a good way to go. Especially not in the early 80s. People weren't as, I don't know, free thinking as they are now, you know.
Yeah. Shoot, you find more of that definitely in LA and some in New York, but in other parts of America.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, we have our
Why
struggles
is he
here too,
talking
but
about
man,
them Indians?
yeah,
You know,
man, they
so,
cats be tripping.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Trey mentioned Gary Newman. Oh, Cedric Sharpley. Yeah. Cedric is awesome. Yeah, that's Cedric Sharpley was in Druid and he was in Gary Newman's Two-Way Army. He was
I
another one.
liked Gary Newman actually. He was fantastic. Gary Newman was
Yeah,
really cool. That was, the beginning of synthesizers kind of in pop, he was a big mover and shaker in making synthesizers popular before so
yeah.
many others. Hmm.
He wanted to be the first punk rock pilot, from what I understand.
And he did become a pilot.
That's
Because
so funny.
yeah, yeah, he had a great story. His parents mortgaged their house for him to make a record, and he made his first album, and it came out on blue vinyl and stuff, and sold enough copies for them to fully buy the house back.
That's a trip, man.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
he went on to have a really big career. Yeah, it was a good example of parents believing in their kid and helping him. He did very
Man.
well. Yeah, I think he always
Yeah.
had his own label too, if I'm not wrong, for a while. So he would have really raked in the dough.
Wow. Yeah, I was bummed that I missed him when he came through. I think Marilyn Manson even came out on stage when this is like maybe 10 years ago, maybe even
Okay.
longer. That was a while back. But I dig Gary's stuff too, man.
Yeah,
He,
yeah. So when's there going to be like a new big goth success? Because every few years there is one, right? We had Marilyn Manson, then we had like She Wants Revenge, right?
yeah,
They're like,
Justin Warfield. Did you know
yeah.
that Justin Warfield was a rapper before that? A lot of people don't know that.
Oh, I didn't know that
Yeah,
either. Okay.
dude.
Well, they
I
did very
freaked out.
well.
I freaked out when I found out that he was doing She Wants Revenge because I remember in the early 90s and he was his style of rap was really odd even back then. He had a video, it was like kind of Clockwork Orange's influence, and then he had like them dancing like a bunch of droogs, like dressed as droogs. It was a weird
Okay.
video. And then of course decades later I'm like, wait, Justin Warfield the rapper? It's like that's
They
cool.
did well. It was cool. Yeah, it was cool. So we need another, we need someone else to come out and fly the flag for a little bit. And I mean,
I
fly
know,
it right
man.
into the charts. So
Heck yeah.
all you guys watching out there, do something.
Yeah, man.
That's
Trey
the
says we
challenge.
should all collab. I'm down.
Mhm. Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
down to
yeah.
rock. I play stand up and electric bass, drums
You got to
too.
be remember for the commercial goth song. Fly it right in and land the plane.
That's right. Shoot,
Yeah,
man.
because She Wants Revenge was, it was very nice and very coolly done, and they just managed to take the whole country by storm. I was shocked, you know.
Wow. Yeah, I liked what I heard, man. I wish I could have saw them live. I don't know what are they still around?
I think so, yeah. I mean, they were from Hollywood. They were like some LA guys, I think.
Yeah.
At least just before they made it. Maybe they came here from somewhere else, but a lot of people around here know them. And I think they do some shows. I think they're still, you know, raking in some dough playing Cincinnati and wherever else we'll have them. And all you need is that one mega hit, and you can keep
Yep.
playing live shows until you're like older than Charlie Watts.
Dude, every time, even when you mention Charlie Watts, I just think of him looking at like Mick Jagger, like look at the videos. You'll see he is at least two of them that I saw like that.
He's
I think
just
Mick had like some
calm.
disco. You know what I'm
Yeah,
talking about? You
yeah,
just
oh
like,
yeah. It's the way he's just so mellow with it. Yeah, very mellow, very mellow.
oh man, hilarious. Yeah, Dre, let me know, man. That'd be rad. Well, shoot,
Mm.
do you have any words of wisdom? I mean, like for us, like just encouraging wise and just anything that you would say advice wise.
Well, you know what? I am about to put out my own EP, and I think for us creative people, everybody should do that. It's really not that hard. I mean, if you're smart enough to make some music, you're definitely smart enough to be able to do this. And nowadays, it's easy. You've got all these people like, CD Baby and TuneCore and DistroKid. Basically, you put your song on their site, and 2 weeks later, it's everywhere from iTunes and Spotify to whoever is streaming in Japan. So it's definitely easy to do now. And so more people should do it. The hard part is the promotion. Easy to make the song and then to actually get anyone to see it and to hear it is some work. But we're gonna be crossing that bridge as we get there. So yeah, I think more people should do it. It's not as difficult as it sounds. And this way you own all your own stuff, all your own publishing, all your own masters. So, you can still get your like 80 something cents every time you get a download. So it
Shoot.
does well. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's better than any record deal anywhere.
Yeah.
So
DIY.
yes, yeah, you got to do the work. You got to do the DIY part, which is time consuming and you have to learn a lot, but it's all there on the internet.
Yep.
More people should do it.
Man, what a trip.
I hope that
It's
helps.
funny, I'm actually working on an EP. The guy that I was working with, we kind of had some things happen within the last few years between tragedies and then also this situation with COVID. So I'm like in the middle of something that I've been working on for 6 years. I want to get my own computer at this point because I need to learn how to actually. I need to get something like that so I can record myself. Like
Yes, yes.
I have too many ideas.
And you don't have to get anything expensive. I have friends who are basically using GarageBand, which
Mm,
comes with a Mac. And that's a great place to start. You can write songs and do stuff in there, add your vocals, the whole stuff. Record some guitar. I wouldn't be trying to record a full band with drum kit and a bass amp and stuff like that, but for putting together ideas, it's good.
that's rad.
Yeah,
Do you have
yeah.
any
I
links? Do you have any links where we could hear your music or anything like that?
Not yet, not yet, because I uploaded it on 5th of September, and the release date's the 29th of September. And so from
Oh,
that date on, it's going to be on YouTube and Spotify and just everywhere.
wow.
So
Oh,
I have no links yet.
what was that? Dre was like Bandcamp is my favorite label. That's
Yes,
awesome.
yeah. Bandcamp is the same kind of thing. It's much more independent and DIY. Um, you know, none of us really needs a 360 record deal right now. So all these places are the places to go where you can keep all your own money. You just got to do all the work yourself.
Yeah. DIY.
Yeah, yeah,
Man.
yeah.
Oh, do you ever talk to the guys from Ritual at all anymore? Or you guys just kind of doing
Whoa,
your own thing?
no, not at all. I haven't been to London in quite a few years. I did used to see Jamie um, up through, I probably saw him last in the 90s. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, no, I don't see them at all. I actually saw Billy last year at a
Wow.
charity event. So, but we just said hi, hi, and that was it.
Man.
You know, last time I saw Ian years ago, we had a long chat. He and
Wow.
I were always friends. Yeah.
Man. That's so cool though, man. Like I'm really happy that you joined us and like I feel like thank you isn't enough and like
It
like
was fun for me. Trip down
yeah.
memory lane.
It
Yeah.
was awesome.
Thank you. Thanks for
Man,
giving me the chance. And I hope your
Man,
fans enjoyed it when you're
yeah,
listening.
man. Like this is
The
an
lead
honor,
and play.
you know. And hopefully yeah, man. Oh my gosh. Like whenever you get that up, I'll definitely like share it and stuff too, to the
Absolutely,
group
yes,
and all that.
yes, most definitely. It's a matter of weeks. It's a matter of weeks.
Heck
So
yeah, man.
yeah, well, we'll be you'll be rocking some Afro beat.
That's right. That stuff is bomb. Freaking Fela,
Yeah,
dude. That's
yeah,
right.
exactly. That's the whole. It's
Speaking of,
kind of like that.
yeah,
I've
Fela is
kind of
bomb.
always had that in me. In fact, if you listen to, I think it's Christians that has that da 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 da. And people would ask me, where'd you get that beat from? And it's totally all over Africa. People use that beat. But
Yep.
in post-punk London, it was like, that's different.
Shoot,
So
you got
yeah,
those get Fela and then the Osabisa guys like mixing everything, like
definitely,
you know.
definitely. And it's huge business over there now. It's really grown. Nigeria and South Africa have really gotten like music business infrastructure together. So, there is a whole industry.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's,
That's
it's beginning
amazing.
to come out to the rest of the world as well. So, very good.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. You'll be hearing about all these Burna Boy and Kid. These are their new young stars.
Yeah, man. That's
And I
that's
want to
just
sell beats to them, really. That's what I want to do. So I'm kind of putting out the music to see if I can make some ripples and attract some beat selling business.
you probably will, man. Like especially like just it's funny. Like I know cats that like will make beats for other cats. Like, and then you got cats that'll put beats online that cats will just rap over too. Like, oh, I
Yeah.
didn't
Oh,
know
yeah.
that cat was doing that.
Yeah. Oh, now there's sites where, basically you can rent a song for 25 bucks.
That's tight.
Yeah. And some major rappers are on there and, using the songs, using the tracks. I did it for a little bit, not with very much success. It's not that, there's a thousand people doing that too. And
Man.
yeah, it's crazy.
So I know this is probably I don't want to draw it out too long. I'm sure we all gotta roll out. So as far as like, what would you say the good advice, especially for being a musician? I think I asked Cadley Morell the same thing. As far as like making whatever you do work, like a lot of us have day jobs and all that. Um, but we do music, like what's
Yeah,
your
yeah.
advice for making a business out of it? Like just
It's definitely the way to be. I mean, I'm definitely finding music business costs money. So
yeah,
you
for
definitely
Ali.
need to have a day job to be able to pay for your, whatever aspirations you have musically. So that's definitely the way to go. Definitely, and in this world you can't do anything without a buck. So gotta have that
Yeah.
day job and gotta just, get the stuff. For me, the most important thing is always just getting it done, getting to a point where
Mm.
it's finished, it's mixed, it's mastered. Then you actually have a product. And for most of us, that's a huge part of the struggle. And once you get there, you're only halfway, right? Now you've made the
Yeah.
thing, you got to sell it.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. That's the thing.
so
That is the biggest struggle. It's like, okay, and even that changes so much, like how do you sell this thing and like, how do you make it kind of generate? I give it to all the cats that have made it like that, if they can do it and make it full time, but man, that is a
it's hard.
struggle.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. And then once you move to doing one, the other one suffers. Like now, I'm kind of trying to get myself in marketing mode. I don't make any tracks. I'm not singing anything because I'm just on the computer looking for, how I can get heard and how I can, get in front of people. Because that's just as big a job, if not bigger, than making of the music. So it's
Yeah.
definitely a ladder that you have to climb.
Shoot, but I'm glad you're still rocking it, man. Especially like with according to Wikipedia, We didn't know where you were. We didn't even know if you were even still playing music no more. You're
Meanwhile, you see,
MIA.
I've been busy.
We
This
don't know
was,
his whereabouts. Well,
yeah, yeah.
audience, here he is right here.
There he is. There he is. I'm not far away. I've always
Yeah.
been just around the corner.
Dre was like, "This is amazing." Ray is in LA too. We're both in LA. Jan says thank you, man.
Thank you too, Jan. I'm glad you listened in.
And I want to thank all of you guys, and I want to thank Ray Mondo for like joining us. And this has been really cool. Shoot, Black History of Rock and Roll. I'm gonna put this up on YouTube. I'll let you guys know when it's up. It's gonna be up on the Black History of Rock and Roll YouTube page. And shoot, Ray, if you have any like links that you want to share with us later, like I'll
I
put
will
that
be
on.
yeah, absolutely. McKamey Beats. McKamey Beats.
That's right, man.
Thank you. Thanks.
God bless you, brother. Thanks a lot. And thank you guys
Absolutely.
for joining us. This was awesome. Shout out to Raymondo. By the way, happy birthday to Tanya Celis, who does Sopa Alternativa. Check them out. It's like a Brazilian version of, well, I don't want to compare her to what I'm doing, but we're kind of doing the me, her, and Nikki, and there's a few other ghetto songbird. We all are kind of doing the same thing. We're just kind of giving our story as far as like just black musicians. She's in Brazil doing that. Her birthday is
Oh,
today.
nice.
Shout out to DJ Dennis Owens as
Happy
well, who's
birthday.
also a Fela fan. Dennis Owens was in Action League. He was in Suburban Rhythm. He was in Blow Up Blow. He was with Ike Owens in Free Moral Agents. Shout out and happy birthday to him. And
Happy
I'm sorry, I'm
birthday.
all over the place. Thank you,
It's
man.
good.
Thanks a whole lot. We were more than honored to
Absolutely.
have you.
This was fun for me. I loved it.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Yay.
Peace, my friends.
Peace. God bless, man. Peace to you guys. Keep rocking madness.
See
Peace.
ya.